If I can't keep my head held high enough, I'll just be love and watch the smiles come, bring my spirits up. There's some shit I like to fix, but I still know that I'm blessed.
Welcome back to my coverage of the Kristin Smart case, Thursday, September 29th, 2022. And the morning starts off with Chris Lambert, who always gives me a good chuckle. So this morning he says, it's going to be weird. And he's going to miss starting late when he was early and starting early when he's late. He's funny. So, all right, let's get into it. So, Chris Lambert at 1:30, or a little before 1:30, says that they're still not let in the courtroom, and the deputy apologizes to everybody waiting to get in and says they'll be back at 1:30. And at 1:15, a hearing regarding one of Paul's jurors is held. The judge has to verify some info that she received that the juror had a Pinterest post regarding pH in soil and other soil-related tips. The juror said she hadn't used that account since 2018 and that the post was regarding renovations at their new home at the time. She explained to the judge how the Pinterest, I think I might be saying that wrong. I'm not on that, so you guys know what I'm talking about. The post that she did on there, and she was explaining how to the judge how it works. See, the judge doesn't know about it either, so. And then the judge asked her a bunch of questions about it just to make sure, feel out if, get a feeling for her answers and make sure that nothing had happened during the actual trial. And so after she'd done that, she sent the juror back out to the hallway and told her to go stay with the other jurors. And I'm sure you all know what happened next. Sanger makes a motion to remove the juror. He says the juror has emotional issues and her statements to a bailiff regarding evidence were inappropriate. So he wants that juror out of here. And the prosecution doesn't agree. He says he wants to keep her, and the prosecution points out that the post that she was doing, the account had 96 images, and they were all related to home improvements and gardening. And once again, let's not forget it was from 2018, and it's now 2022. So Sanger then gets sassy, as he often does, and he accuses Pavrel of being a great defense attorney here, and he's finding defenses for the juror. Sassy guy he is. Sanger says this juror submitted a question regarding septic tanks, and there's just too many coincidences for him. And Judge O'Keefe expressed her original concerns, and she says they were able to review the timing of the board, and the judge felt her demeanor was honest and credible. She said her answers made a lot of sense, and she did not find a cause to remove the juror. Sanger submits the juror's Facebook and Pinterest, I hope, profiles as evidence. Side note, what the heck? In my opinion, he did that just to be a mean jerk. At least he redacted her name, but he didn't need to submit her Facebook and all that stuff. It's kind of an intimidation tactic, in my opinion. Moving on, the rest of the jurors come back into the courtroom at 2:05 p.m., and the judge apologizes for the delay. She asks if the prosecution has a rebuttal witness, and indeed he does. Angela Butler, the forensic DNA analyst, comes back to the stand. Remember, she testified for several days already regarding the blood technology, the hemoglobin test, and all that stuff. So she explains that hemoglobin can be preserved for decades depending on how it's stored. And Sanger objects. And he says that she's not a proper rebuttal witness, and this was asked and answered already during testimony. They went over the methods that defense witness Elizabeth Johnson covered. Oh, of course, but let me back up. The objection was overruled, of course, because she continues to testify. Apparently, she is a proper rebuttal witness according to the judge's decision. So moving on, Elizabeth Johnson, they go over her stuff, which was a defense witness that was on the other day. And they talked about how the blood that was 4 weeks old had been applied to the surface and it had no longer tested positive after 4 weeks. And she said that the study used very little blood and it was very vague, and that the swabs were used every time they redid it, and that the swabs themselves could have rubbed the blood off. So it sounds like a pretty sloppy experiment, if you ask me, if that's all true. And then the prosecution said they didn't use a whole body's worth of blood, did they? And she answered, no, they did not. And then Sanger accuses her opinion and verbiage not to be scientific. And she snaps back and says, quote, those aren't scientific terms. I am a scientist, though, and that is my opinion. So yeah, tell him, girl. All right, moving on. She says she did hem direct testing on the blood from the 70s and the 80s, which was on clothing, and it actually tested positive, the results. And she went back through the results from Ruben's property under the deck there, and it said that there were positive, there were positive results, negative, and weak positives, but there can be no false positive, only false negative. Let me say that again. So there's positive and negative or weak positive, but there can be no false positives, only false negatives. Then Sanger comes and cross-examines Angela, and he questions her about stuff that she's confused, he's confused, and she even stops and asks Sanger, do you even understand the test? I think it's funny when the witnesses turn around and ask him questions. So Sanger pulled out his charts, and he said that the results that he's seeing are conflicting, and she agreed that no DNA was found in the soil, and she herself had no concerns about the conflicting testing results. She feels confidence in the results that she collected in her testing. So Misik's going to come ask some questions, and he asked if in the 70s and 80s if those samples were buried over 10 years. And there was an objection, which was sustained. And then he says, did you retest samples? She said, no. The next question, he asked, could she tell if it was ferret or primate blood? And she says, no. And after that, she was excused. Closing arguments are now scheduled to begin Monday, October 3rd, 2022. And Chloe Jones lets us know that Monday will be Paul and Tuesday will be Rubens. Paul's will start at 8:30 a.m. And after that, the juror deliberation will begin immediately after. And once both sets of jurors have reached the verdict, each verdict will be read separately back to back. The jury was reminded to not discuss the case with anybody or do any research. Kristin's family and friends were in the courtroom today, and Susan was there again on Thursday. And Friday, the judge finally ruled on the media coalition, and she's denying the request for audio and video during the closing arguments. So it will continue with just one pool photographer each day. So things are slowing down, and we are headed into the final stretch, guys. As always, justice for Kristin.
If I can't keep my head held high enough, I'll just be love and watch the smiles come.
Thanks for watching.
Bring my spirits up.
Don't forget to stop and smell the flowers.
There's some shit I like to fix, but I still know that I'm blessed.